How many claim it's silent now? It was silent too during the...
Speedrunning. It's a pretty popular activity amongst gaming communities. For those who aren't aware, it's the act of playing through a game with the intent of completing it in as short amount of time as possible. Now, the actual prerequisites for what would be classed as completion can depend on the game itself, and even in-game conditions, as many have other features that may not be viewed as essential to the plotline's fulfillment. Some may wonder how you can even speedrun a game like Minecraft, which was launched as an open-world sandbox without any clear campaign mode. Well, not too long after the launch, Minecraft chief architect Notch also thought that there should be at least some end goal for the players. So towards the end of 2011, the Ender Dragon was added, whose defeat would engender the final credits, signifying completion of the game. However, the Ender Dragon wasn't just waiting for any old Tom, Dick or Harry to slay them. They reside in a place called the End, on an island where they launch aerial attacks on the besieged gamer. The End can only be accessed through a portal created using Eyes of Ender, in a structure known as a stronghold. However, you also need a sufficient number of Ender Pearls and Blaze Rods, which can only be dropped by certain mobs. To put it simply, it's not considered a facile task. If you're interested in it more, watch Cordwit's video, he summarizes it well. The game's challenging nature naturally makes it the target of competitive players who want to speedrun it, and there are plenty of leaderboards dedicated to just that. As I mentioned earlier, Dream wasn't just a pretty, smiley face, he was skilled on the gameplay front of Minecraft as well, and did regularly partake in speedruns of his own, publishing them online and submitting times for various leaderboards for the respective versions of the game, including world records. He had hung up his running boots for a period of time but appeared to make a comeback towards the end of 2020, scoring impressive times on his Twitch streams and subsequently tendering his results to the official Minecraft speedrunning team. In around October, a week after the stream in question, he announced he would cease streaming his speedruns due to allegations they were fake, expressing frustration that people would even question his ability when he has scored world records before. Completely understandable. However, come the 11th of December, the same day in which he posted his earnest defense of stand culture, another video was uploaded. This time though, by the head moderator of speedrun.com, Geosquare, alongside a rather lengthy document that seemed to express skepticism at Dream's performance.
Let's take a look at Dream's odds. This isn't exactly a good look. Across 6 streams, Dream bartered 262 times and got 42 Pearl trades, which when plugged into the formula comes in at 1 in 177 billion. Guess what else has a random drop chance in speedruns? Blaze rods. Anyone want to guess what Dream's blaze luck was? 1 in 113 billion.
The accompanying document laid out in the most comprehensive terms the sheer unlikeliness of Dream's fortune in acquiring various items necessary to facilitate one's transportation to the End. The 2 items of interest were Ender Pearls and Blaze Rods, which have a pretty defined percentage probability of dropping when you slay the mobs who may carry them. As the graphs illustrated, Dream's accomplishment seemed to exceed the realms of chance, and implied Dream may have downloaded mods to enhance his performance, basically the gamer equivalent of anabolic steroids.
As Dream likes to point out, just because the odds of his luck happening are in the trillions, it doesn't mean that's the same chance of him cheating. I mean, with Illumina's considerably lucky 92% odds, it doesn't mean that there was a 92% chance of him cheating. But the thing that Dream misses is that the odds for the event and the odds for cheating are still correlated. If you perform an infinitesimally unlikely event, then you can be extremely confident that something went wrong that allowed it to happen. Just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's at all feasible. Here the numbers are just so large that they outweigh any conceivable subjective opinion.
The video also showed that Dream had previously attempted to defend himself when confronted with this information by the moderation team, presenting a document from his own perspective, which attempted to demonstrate the flaws in their own calculations. However, Geosquare presented a response to this as well.
It doesn't count because it was biased. You can check the paper for a rebuttal, but we effectively examined the probability of this happening even if we checked multiple runners or streams first. And the bias wasn't nearly strong enough to refute the idea that the odds were possibly tampered with. Look, we're the first to admit that the data is actually biased, but it's nowhere near as biased as it would have to be to disqualify the evidence. The thing with real-world data is that it's pretty much always going to be biased in some way, but the field of statistics was made to interpret this stuff nonetheless, and account for all the errors. In our case, we've overcorrected the bias far enough so that we're biasing in favor of Dream, and we're still getting pretty crazy numbers.
All in all, the report and the video concluded that Dream's chances of succeeding a speedrun with this luck were approximately 1 in 7.5 trillion, and as many other creators noted, that was being generous. Typically, this sort of thing would be a private matter, but as he was a public figure and had completed these speedruns publicly and continued to defend them privately, the mods were clean and happy that he had sold these as authentic and continued to dispute this when challenged. Now, with all this out in the open and with all the previous pressure on him, how would Dream respond? Well, he channeled his inner Trump.
My 1.16 run was just ejected after research due to it being too unlikely to verify. A video was made by head moderator YouTuber Geosquare using my name and clickbaiting, cheating, speedrunning in order to get easy views. Definitely a response. Total BS.
That's just the placeholder accent for it. Don't actually use that. It seems Dream won, and he won by a lot. He tweeted an additional reply stating that many good mods had spoken to him and said that they were going to quit the team because they believed the so-called investigation to be a rotten one. A very rotten one indeed. In the replies, Dream was met with support from his fans. After all, how could he be accused of being too lucky in a luck-based game? This wasn't Dream's only response. He also took to Discord to label Geosquare a clout-chasing clown who needs to go back to the circus. Dream clearly felt strongly about this matter, and to an extent, with the context given, it was understandable. After all, this was his credibility that was under scrutiny with quite damaging implications. It was quite ironic after what had all just been said, what we know Dream knows, and the actual facts of the situation. Geosquare himself demonetized all videos to avoid the allegation of clout chasing and clearly went to a lot of effort to be meticulous. I would say there are much easier ways to garner attention online. To frame a person who merely thought they were doing their job as self-serving and to use incendiary language is obviously going to provoke audiences, even the most tranquil. Dream really needed to back up its claims before jumping to such conclusions, but he was determined to do so. Following this, a series of threads and tweets were posted in the coming days, all with the intent of exonerating him and his unlikely speedrun. These included explanations, corrections, additional evidence, many of which seemed to substantiate his case. This was topped off finally with his own document, filled to the brim with statistical jargon and authored by a professional astrophysicist who worked at an online science consulting company. Alongside this, he published an accompanying video to summarize these alternative findings.
Probability. Probability is the measurement of how likely something is to happen. Recently, one of my speedruns that I did on Twitch has been analyzed by the speedrun.com volunteer mod team and deemed as improbable to a degree that is nearly impossible. So lucky, in fact, that they came to the mathematical conclusion that it had 1 in 7.5 trillion odds of happening. So they put out a video and a long document talking about it, and this is my response.
The video and the document agree with the thesis of the original report published by the moderation team, that the base probability of Dream's drop rates on the mobs in question are astonishingly low. However, they sought to compensate for other statistical biases that the moderation team may have established during their initial investigation. It is conducted with intent to plant that seed of doubt in the mind of the viewer, though this does fluctuate. Even with the harshest of odds, it is in fact impossible to say with certainty that Dream cheated. So Dream was completely justified in defending his position if he believed it. Right?
With these 11 streams included, the data shows, quote, no statistically significant evidence that Dream was modifying the probabilities.
Well,